Hi, good morning, everyone. Patricia Falchetta here from Social Living Solutions. I'm coming on here today to talk about ADHD and autism masking. So, both people with ADHD and autism mask. And I've come on here today to talk about exactly what masking is. So, to explain it to you in, sorry, I'm just moving my camera around, to explain it to you in greater detail so that you understand what it is. Particularly parents of children with ADHD and autism. But I also want to talk a little bit today about the dangers of it. Now, if you come on and watch me today, please let me know. Just say hi. And if you have any questions, please pop them up as I'm talking. And as always, if you watch afterwards, please put hashtag replay so that I know that you have watched, and please put any questions in the comments. So masking. What is masking? Masking is exactly as it sounds. So we all know what a mask is, that when we put a mask on, we hide our face. So what autism and ADHD, what people with autism and ADHD do, and masking is particularly prevalent in girls. So I'll give you an example of girls when they're little and when they're young. And this is also the reason why girls tend to be often misdiagnosed with other conditions. And sometimes will even be diagnosed with personality disorders and things like that, rather than being diagnosed with ADHD. And it's because, as I just said before, girls particularly mask. So it's particularly prevalent in girls, but males do it as well. So so to give you an example of young girls when they mask, so if you imagine like a little girl in like a preschool room or in daycare. So what generally happens with girls who have autism or ADHD, they sense very early on that something is up, that something's not right, that they're really struggling, they're struggling to fit in. But they don't know why. And so what happens is they do what's called masking. Now, when they're younger, what they do when they mask is they actually watch little girls around them. So they'll watch little girls around them and they'll mimic the play. So, for example, you know how typically girls do, tea parties, play with dolls and things like that. So, and I'm just saying I don't want to generalize, but we do know that is how girls tend to typically play. So a girl that is struggling socially will watch the other girls in the room. So they'll actually sit back and observe, and they'll watch. And then what they'll do is they will mimic the play. So they won't necessarily feel comfortable in the play, but they will mimic it. And they become masters at this. They become masters at scripting and mimicking the play. Now, when they're younger, masking is really easy to do, okay? But as girls get older, and boys as well who mask, the masking gets more and more difficult because social interactions get harder. Reading social cues get harder. Just generally communication gets more difficult. So what happens is that the children that mask or people that mask are putting themselves under a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, as you can imagine. So what often happens is that they will develop anxiety disorders quite early on, or or depression. But I also just wanted to let you know, though, that with masking, it does go on and continues throughout life. So what happens is, like, even I myself, I'm really aware of it, as most of you will know that watch me and follow me. Was a late diagnosis of ADHD about 4 years ago when I was 48. And I've become really aware of the fact that I mask. So I mask in social situations. I masked at school. And so to give it to you from my personal point of view, I masked because I struggled to fit in. I never felt like I quite fitted in at school. I've always found the social hierarchy with girls really difficult to work out. I always felt like I was on the periphery or on the outer. And yeah, so I was really aware. So I adopted behaviors that were not me or were not my own to fit in. And really interestingly, the thing with masking, what can happen long term is sometimes when you've masked for so long, you actually don't know what is you and what is the mask. So what is actually your personality and what is masking. And this is something that you typically hear older women with autism and ADHD speak about, that they don't actually know. They don't actually know what is them and what is, is the masking, because they've been masking for so long. So the issues with, now I'm really, really sorry while I'm doing this. My dog is crying and I've just got to go and let her out. You wouldn't believe it, would you? She's crying to go to the toilet. So I'm just going to go and let her out while I'm talking. So the issues, as I was saying, with the masking are the fact that, as you can imagine, what the long-term consequences of this are. If it makes you struggle makes you struggle with identity, and those struggles with, I'm just going to sit here so I'm not moving you all around my house. The struggles with identity, but also too, as I was saying, leads to girls being misdiagnosed. And this is when I talk about the dangers of masking, this is one of the dangers, is the fact that young women often get diagnosed with personality disorders. Also too, really, really common if autism isn't picked up early in girls, is they develop eating disorders as a coping mechanism. And I did a live a few weeks ago about eating disorders, so I won't go into eating disorders, but it's quite common for young women who are neurodiverse. Hey Stella, it's great to see you on here. Thank you. As I was saying, it's really common for girls who are neurodiverse to develop eating disorders because they, because they're often masking and the eating disorders. I mean, there's lots of reasons why eating disorders develop, but one of them is the issues with fitting in, and also the high anxiety, high stress, control of environment, and things like that. So yes, Stella, I know a lot of your clients would be suffering with this. I see it all the time. I even see it, like I've got some young clients that have just started working with me, female clients, and they're neurodiverse. They've been masking their whole lives. And it's really interesting because when I talk to them now, when I say I'm talking about, like girls who are 14, 15, and when I explained to them what masking is, straight away they said, yes. They go, yes, I've been doing that my whole life. I've been watching other girls in the classroom, that I've been watching them and been mimicking them. Yes, I was doing that when I was in preschool. And then also, then as young women, they're doing it in years, in high school. So then they're doing it socially. So it's really, really, really then affects their self-esteem, affects their, self-confidence, and also leads then to, developing other mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. But the thing that I wanted to talk about today was what happens with the masking too, is this misdiagnosis. So girls often get misdiagnosed. I'm actually on a group, just recently joined a group of older women who were late diagnosed, who and many of them on that group were, misdiagnosed with bipolar or borderline personality disorder and things like that, where it actually was autism or ADHD, or autism and ADHD. So that's why I want to really, really bring this issue with masking onto the fore. It's something I really want parents to be aware of, to watch your little girls, to see if they're masking, because don't forget the common thing with kids that are neurodiverse is we all know they'll hold it together really, really well at school, and then they'll come home and they'll fall apart because home is their safe place. So it's just really important to have those conversations with your kids. Find out, if they're struggling socially. Find out what's going on with school, and particularly with your daughters, if they're having friendship struggles and things like that, really look into it, really see what's going on, because it could be masking, and that they're just under such high anxiety all the time, that they really will be having difficulty with friendships. They'll be masking, and the school day will be really, really stressful for them. So these things are really important, and the masking is something to be really aware of. And the other issue with masking too is it's a huge contributor to what we call autistic or ADHD burnout. So and burnout can last for months and months, and then burnout can often be misdiagnosed as chronic fatigue. So these are really, really important issues, and I'm actually going to do a YouTube video later in the week, because I do a new YouTube video every Thursday, and that's going to be on autistic and ADHD burnout, because that's something that's really, really important. People really need to be aware of it. So, and this is also for practitioners as well, because the misdiagnosis of girls with other conditions is so common, and then the autism or ADHD isn't being supported or treated. They're often being put on medications for conditions like bipolar, borderline personality disorder, or sometimes schizophrenia, which are really strong medications. We know the effects that they have on the brain, and they've got the wrong diagnosis, so they shouldn't even be on these medications. And then what happens is, because they've got the wrong diagnosis, then they even go more and more down, the rabbit hole, if you like, of depression, anxiety, stress, not fitting in, overwhelm. So then the long-term mental health repercussions of this can be really, really serious. Whereas if, we got onto these things early, we wouldn't have those same mental health, conditions. And all of you that follow me will know that I work from a very strength-based approach. I really, really feel that if, we can get an early support, then we can really focus on the person's strengths, really focus, so that then we're really helping them with their self-esteem, their confidence, and helping them grow, as a confident young man or woman, and that they're just autistic, or that they just have ADHD. It's just a part of them. It's who they are, and it gives them so many, strengths and talents, rather than people suffering from these debilitating mental health conditions, where they then cannot thrive and do really, really well in life, and have a full, joyful and fulfilling life. So that's why I wanted to just pop on today and just talk about masking. I really would like to create more of an awareness of it, and because it's important to me too, because I see it with my clients, and I also, as I mentioned before, I do see it with young men as well. I have had young male clients who have masked, and then because they've masked, they also have anxiety or depression as well. And often, people with autism and ADHD have a lot of gut issues as well. And of course, gut issues are very closely linked to anxiety. So there's a lot of things that we, could be not stopping as such, but there are a lot of conditions that we could stop from developing if we were more aware of even simple things like masking, or watching for those things from an early age, like from preschool, primary school, and even early high school. Because then what happens is then, people continue masking, they then go into the workplace and they mask, and then provisions and reasonable adjustments aren't put in place for them that they really need to thrive in the workplace. And then, of course, what happens is they end up taking, extended sick leave and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we could prevent if we became aware of these issues. So thanks, Stella, for being on here today, and anybody else that's been listening. As I said, if you do watch afterwards, please put #replay in the comments. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I will also answer them. And also, I'm going to be doing quite an in-depth YouTube, as I said, this Thursday, that will be up on Thursday night on my YouTube page. That will be about autistic and ADHD burnout, and I'll be covering some really interesting information there, plus sharing some resources. So have a fantastic day, everyone, and thank you for watching.